Welcome to the How to Comparison Shop and Save Money webinar. Again, my name is Chris Conway. I'm an instructor at University of Phoenix for our personal finance course. And this is a course where I hear from students a lot about the importance of money and financial literacy and working towards financial confidence. So that's one of the reasons that we're running this webinar series here today. Today, we're talking about finding ways to save money on the usual purchases that we all need to make. So as you've noticed, probably costs have gone up, and tips like these can be really helpful for helping stretch your money. In today's session, we have two experts here with us from Goalsetter and from iGrad who will walk us through the topic. And so I will let each of them introduce themselves. And Tanya, if you'd like to go first.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Van Court, CEO and founder of Goalsetter, which is a financial education and technology platform.
And then Kevin.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Soner, the Senior Vice President of Wellness for iGrad, the financial education and resources that we provide for University of Phoenix.
Great. Thank you both. Just a quick housekeeping. The webinar is in listen-only mode, and we'll go through any of the questions you have at the end of the presentation. So you'll see on the screen here the Q&A section. Just post any of your questions in there, and we will answer them at the end. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And Tanya, I think you were kicking us off here.
Absolutely. So I know many of you think, I know how to comparison shop. Like I go into the store and I look at the little tag that says, is this $1 per fluid ounce or $1.15 per fluid ounce? But there are so many other things that we can all be doing. And quite frankly, things that we may not have paid attention to before inflation started to creep up, but we should certainly pay attention to now. And the starting point is really identifying needs versus wants. Now you may say, what do needs versus wants have to do with comparison shopping and saving money, Tanya? And the truth of the matter is everything. It really is foundational. So before even thinking about prices, you got to think about what do you need versus what do you want? As an example, the question, if your laptop breaks and you say, yes, I absolutely need a new laptop, I would probably agree with you. But the question that you have to ask yourself is, what kind of new laptop do I really need? Do I really need a new laptop that has all the bells and whistles? Or do I want that kind of a laptop? Do I really just need a laptop that has, the basics that allow me to do my schoolwork, do my any personal work I'm doing, maybe, go to websites and download my streaming apps. So there are some basics that the new laptop could offer you. And then there's the laptop with all the bells and whistles. You can apply this needs versus wants philosophy to every single thing that you are spending money on. What are the things that you absolutely need to spend money on versus the things that might be, not priorities for you to spend money on at this time? By being clear on those priorities and making informed decisions now, you can really stretch your budget and maximize your savings, whether you're managing your finances as a student, as a parent, or as a professional. So let's talk about, now that we know needs versus wants is the foundation for all of this, let's talk about now, how do we set you up for success when you are thinking about comparison shopping and saving money? So saving money consists of two things, everyone, right? The first thing that it's all about is, can I save money from my current budget today? That is the first question we all need to be asking ourselves before we're thinking about shopping and going out and buying more things. Is there a way that I can save money from my current budget? The second question is, can I save by spending differently moving forward? And that's where the comparison shopping really does come in. So, again, need versus wants. When you look through your current budget today, you've got to think about what are the things you need versus what are the things you want. And when you think about your spending habits for tomorrow and how you can spend differently tomorrow, again, you also have to think about your needs versus wants. So the first thing that you should do is get a quick monthly budget snapshot of where you are today. You should create a very simple and realistic picture that considers what's your income today, what are your expenses today, where are you spending your money today, and where's all your money going, right? So this is today's budget. It doesn't mean that it needs to be tomorrow's budget, but you should certainly understand where is today's budget and where is your money going today. You can do this by using your bank or credit card app's spending categories feature. So you go into that bank app or that credit card app and just see, how much am I spending on restaurants? How much am I spending on travel? How much am I spending on gas? How much am I spending shopping at clothing stores? You should then write down your top 3 expense items, both using your bank's spending categories feature and using the knowledge that you have about where you may be spending money outside of that credit card, right? So your top 3 expense items, for most of us, those are typically housing, food, and transportation. So write those down so that you understand this is where I'm spending the majority of money today. But then you have an opportunity to identify what's beyond that, right? Yes, I need to live in a home. Yes, I need to eat food. And yes, I need to get myself to school or to work. But what are those other categories where I'm spending over $100 a month? Or what are my other top 5 categories that I'm spending money on? These offer the biggest savings potential. These should include both fixed spending, so insurance, cell phone, subscriptions, and variable expenses like groceries and gas, because there are absolutely opportunities in both of those categories to save money. It doesn't matter if you think it's fixed. You can go into even those fixed categories like your insurance or cell phone and figure out if you can get different policies or different providers that will save you more money. The other thing that you should think about as you're looking at your top 5 spending categories are seasonal variations. So you may spend a lot more on school supplies or books in back to school time, and you're not spending a lot on that all throughout the rest of the year. During holidays, you are spending money during the holidays that you wouldn't spend during the rest of the year. And for the summer, if you have childcare or day camp needs during the summer, those are often different than during the rest of the year. So if you are doing this analysis right now and you're not thinking about some of the expenses that you may entertain in the fall or during the Christmas holidays or the December holidays, you should absolutely take that into account too. Those also are times and ways that you can save money. Look for categories where you can reduce spending without necessarily sacrificing your quality of life, like cutting back on takeout. Sometimes it's better to cook that home cooked meal than to get the takeout, and the takeout is more expensive. And sometimes you can even walk to get the takeout as opposed to having it delivered, and that's going to be an automatic savings of 20%. You can also look at subscriptions that you rarely use and potentially cut those out of your current budget. Understanding where your money is going every month will help you identify areas to cut back. So you can then reallocate those savings toward bigger goals, such as retirement or paying off debt. None of us wants to live check to check. None of us wants to not put away any money towards our savings accounts. And so it really is about trying to find ways in that current budget where you can save. You can then create a comparison list or a spreadsheet, considering your total cost over time, not just your upfront expenses. So, these are the top 5 spending categories where you're spending money. What could you do differently in each of those categories? If one of your top spending categories is a cell phone and that cell phone bill is $150 a month, what if you went and got, a cheaper plan or a cheaper provider that was $50 a month? How much could that save you over a year? Again, it's really important that you are considering the total cost over time, because your current plan, maybe it was $0 to get in, but they're charging you $150 every month. You've got to look at the entire time that you're spending on that particular line item. You should also create lists by category to research each of those categories. So, what are you spending on household goods? What are you spending on technology? What are you spending on clothing? Whenever you are shopping in a particular category, don't just go to Walmart for everything, right? Think about, what are the places where I can go where the technology items are cheaper or the household items are cheaper? So if you create your spending budget by each of those categories, you may very well be able to find cheaper opportunities. The next thing that we all know, but some of us still fall prey to, is avoid impulse spending. Impulse spending can quickly derail your financial goals, literally in a split second, which is the split second that it took you to make that impulse purchase. Especially when you're balancing work and family and education. You need to have money for all of those, and that typically doesn't leave money in the budget for impulse spending. Making spontaneous purchases often leads to unnecessary expenses that can create stress for you in the long run. And it's not just spontaneous purchases, it's spontaneous, what I call spending scope creep. So sorry, I am not celebrating spending scope creep, everyone. But it's spending scope creep, right? We talked about this a little bit before when you know that you need a computer, and so you walk into the store intending to buy just the computer, and then you end up, instead of buying a $700 computer, in the $1,500 computer section. That's spending scope creep. So if you need a car to get you to work, don't look at the fancy car with the moon roof instead of the car that will just get you to work. Again, it goes back to your needs versus your wants. So it's avoiding impulse spending in terms of buying items that you don't need, but also upgrading to higher end items that you really don't need. Before making a big purchase, also give yourself a 24-hour cooling off period to ensure it's something you actually really need. I'm going to turn over now to my colleague Kevin to talk about what are essential tools that we should all have in our lives to help us manage this.
All right. Thank you very much, Tanya. So first thing we want to talk about when we're talking about essentials is some of the tools that everybody should have in their toolkit. Basically, these days, technology is our friend. Whether you are completing your shopping adventure fully online, or if you're just going to do a little bit of research before going out into the real world and getting your hands on something to purchase. So there's a lot of different specialized apps that are out there or websites. So Google Shopping, Capital One Shopping, shopping.com, Price Scout, just to name a few. So there's lots of different platforms that are out there that the way technology works is if they post information about products and they have links out there, then they're going to get some kind of a referral fee if they link you to a site where you actually make the transaction. So it's very popular for web designers to build sites that pull in all of it and aggregate all the information so that you can comparison shop. So the access to that data means that there's tons of different platforms out there that can lead you in the right direction. A couple of other technology integrations are discount sites, such as Rakuten or RetailMeNot, Honey are just a few. These ones, they monitor the web and they monitor what the prices that are out there, as well as different discount codes and promotions and things that might be happening. One of the great things about those is a lot of them have browser extensions, right? So it's not necessarily that you need to go to their specific website, but if you find one that works for you, I personally have Honey installed on my Chrome browser. Whenever I go on a site, it just knows. And if I'm on a site and it sees a product that I'm looking at and that's for $99.99, I'll get a little pop-up in the corner from Honey that says, this is currently available at a lower price on the following sites. Right. So it's not going to be comprehensive. The web is a big place. There's lots of different stores out there. And there's physical stores that don't have their prices posted online. So it's not the perfect, it's going to give you the lowest price possible at all times, but they're great tools that can make you aware of opportunities to save money that you might not have even been aware of. One of the other things that I really like about the advancements in technology is if you've embraced AI and how to write AI prompts, you can actually ask AI to do a research project for you. Right, so you can go in and say, I'm currently looking for a laptop. I need it for school. My laptop broke. The main things I need to accomplish are X, Y, Z, and you put in all of the details, and it's not only going to comparison shop, which is helpful when you know what you're looking for, but it can also tell you what you should be looking for, right? Like, so it can kind of lead you to it can kind of balance that wants versus needs analysis with the shopping all in one. So if you haven't embraced AI, I'd highly recommend it. We actually planned a family trip using AI with an entire itinerary of where to go and what things to see in a different town we had never been in before, right? So there's lots of great things where AI can kind of point you in a right direction, a little more efficient than going to 30 or 40 or 50 different sites. That's what a lot of these AI tools can do in the background for you. Now, when we talk about tools that can help kind of shine the light on essentials, there's also some tried and true non-technological things that you can do, right? So the first thing we want to talk about when we talk about essentials is your groceries and your household items. So Tanya mentioned in the wants versus needs, you got to eat, you got to live, right? You got to keep your house clean, right? So there's certain things that they're definitely in that needs category, but you can apply the same laptop knowledge to your food, right? Like, I need to eat, I want a Wagyu steak, right? Like, I don't need the most expensive possible thing from the deli counter, right? But even if you say that, okay, I do want to have a certain type of food, right? You can comparison shop across different brands, and you can also consider going for bulk shopping. You can also consider going for the generics instead of the name brands. There's a lot of different strategies there. So first thing we recommend is find out what are all of the stores that are reasonable for you to shop at, right? Finding something on sale that's 15 miles away, your gas costs might counteract the small savings you have from a coupon. So think about, where do you normally shop, right? What are the grocery stores that are close to home? Think about the things that you buy on a consistent basis, right? And monitor those prices, whether that's on websites, apps. We still get the circular that comes in the mail around us, where you can kind of see what's on sale. And so things like, my family likes pasta. I haven't paid full price for pasta in years, because when it's on sale, that's when I buy it. If it's not on sale, I refuse to buy it, right? Like, so there's some strategies that you kind of get. What are the things that you're buying on an ongoing basis? And you just know what is your price range that you're willing to buy. And if it's not available, you don't go for it. The other piece is going to be meal planning, and how do you get the most out of those dollars with those ingredients, right? How can you plan for different ingredients that work in different recipes, and you can plan your week out based on what's on sale, and how do you get 3 meals out of those fresh vegetables instead of having leftover vegetables that don't work with whatever you're planning on cooking for the rest of the week. Stretch that dollar with what you're doing there, right? One of the cautions with bulk is, keep in mind that bulk doesn't always mean a savings, especially if you end up throwing it out or it goes bad. Right? So we run into this at our house, where if you have kids, as soon as you buy something that they like in bulk, they all of a sudden don't like it anymore. So be cautious about your perishables that need to be consumed within a period of time. All right, obviously bulk is great for your toilet paper, your cleaning supplies, your paper towels, things like that are going to be pretty evergreen. You're not really going to worry about those, but be judicious about how big you go with your perishables and your food items, so that you don't create unnecessary waste. Completely counteracts that savings that you had on that bulk purchase. When you think about generic versus brand name, this is something that, as I've gotten older, I've really embraced. I've been fortunate enough in my life to actually come across people in my personal life that work in generic brand production, and I've gotten to learn firsthand from people that are really in the trenches, actually making it, and they run factories where the same food is being produced on one production line, and then it gets divided up into 4 different lanes at the end to get 4 different packages. In some cases, when you're buying generic, you're actually buying the same food as the name brands, right? And not always. Like, sometimes you're getting a completely unique product that just happens to be white labeled for your local grocery store, but the quality of generic is often on par, equal, or in some cases I found better than some of the more expensive name brands. Right. One of the big advantages of the generic is that they don't have to spend all the marketing dollars for their individual products, because the marketing is to get you to the store in general. Right. I've never seen a commercial for Kirkland brand food. I see commercials for Costco, right? And so by those economies of scale for their marketing budgets, they can lower the cost of the individual products, and you get high quality stuff at a lower cost, right? So I really endorse trying out and testing all of the generics. Just like with name brand, I've had name brand stuff I don't like. I've had expensive stuff I don't like, right? So try it out. You're probably going to find a considerable amount of off-brand items that are really, really good. Tanya mentioned earlier about subscriptions and understanding your annual subscription audit process, right? There's a lot of apps that are out there these days that can help you with subscriptions. Again, leveraging technology, you can plug in your information from if you have all of your subscriptions going through an auto pay, you can have it do an analysis of your bank statement or your credit card statement, and it understands which codes indicate subscriptions, or it'll look for repetitive charges. A lot of times you forget about that 99-cent subscription that you signed up for, but you have a couple of those 99-cent month subscriptions, and you might have 50, 60 bucks a year that you have zero use. It's basically like throwing it in the trash, right? If somebody said, throw $1 in the trash every month, you'd refuse to do it. But a lot of us are doing that now that we have all the technology that's managing our money. So keep in mind Tanya's recommendation earlier about analyzing your spending categories that are high. Subscriptions is an area where you definitely want to look at the spending at the low amount because a lot of those individually low-cost subscriptions can really add up, especially if you're not utilizing those. So one of the techniques that I always like to recommend when it comes to subscriptions is when it comes to streaming is to do a little bit of a on-off strategy. We do this in our house. We get frustrated because everybody talks about all these great shows and we never have time to watch them all. So we just pick, because there's one streaming service and one series that we'll get into, right? So it's going to be Netflix month because there's something somebody recommended, we're on Netflix, right? Then the next month, somebody recommends something that's on Max. So we're going to cancel Netflix and then we're going to launch Max, right? Now, this only works if you've got the apps that don't have any kind of cancellation fees. Most of them are really nice where you can turn them on and off. And there really is no financial negative. There's no advantage to keeping them turned on a permanent basis. So check your apps and check what kind of deals you have. If you have anything that's your grandfathered in on an old rate, you want to make sure you don't cancel it, come back at more expensive. But it can be a good strategy to alternate and not have 7 different streaming services on at all times when you don't have time to watch all those shows. Then the last thing we're going to talk about is negotiation on your existing necessary bills, right? One of the things that Tanya mentioned earlier was the phone service. I'm going through this right now. AT&T is who we're with. We had one of those promotional deals of like 4 lines for some special rate. Well, that special rate lasted a year, maybe a year and a half, and then it slowly started creeping up as the promotional period ended. And now I look at what I'm paying for my family on our cell phone bills, and I'm hearing all these commercials for so much less. I call up AT&T and tell them, if you can match one of these promotions, I won't leave, right? And customer acquisition costs them money. It is in their best interest in most cases to just give you a lower rate versus have you cancel and leave to go to another provider, right? So it never hurts. The worst thing they can say is no, right? I always love the statement of that Michael Jordan used to say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So what's the worst thing that can happen by asking for a lower bill from somebody that you're paying is that they say no and you're right where you left off. But do it enough with all of your essentials and kind of put a little thought into the process of doing so. Chances are you're going to get a couple of those to give you a little bit of a price reduction or some other financial incentive that's going to be valuable to you and your family. So with that, I will toss it back to Tanya as we kind of talk about some of your major purchases and some of the unique considerations there.
Thank you, Kevin. So as Kevin said, the stuff that you are doing every single day truly adds up to the majority of your budget. And so you got to pay attention to that. But once in a while, we get these major purchases that come along, and it's really critical that you are not just jumping into a major purchase because you know the brand or someone recommended it or you saw a commercial for it. You really have to make sure that major purchases are that you are spending sufficient time comparing and contrasting the costs of major purchases. Because even though they only come along once in a while, they are typically purchases where you are going to have an expense every single month. And sometimes you're locked into a long-term contract often you're locked into a long-term contract on these major purchases. So your decision-making around major purchases is super important. So one of the first things that, we think about as a major purchase, even though you're not buying a good, you're buying a service, is insurance, because insurance is one of those things that every single month you're paying. Auto and renter's insurance. If you have auto and renter's insurance today and haven't looked at it in the past 2 to 3 years, or after a major life change to see how that rate that you're paying might have changed over the past 2 or 3 years, this is absolutely the time to revisit it. It's time for you to go and research companies, make sure that you are listing out your top 2 or 3 based on the rates that you see online, but not just the rates that you can find online, also the reviews for those companies. Make sure that you're not being penny wise and pound foolish, as an example, by saying, hey, I'm going to go for this low cost insurance provider. And then when you go and read the reviews, 90% of the people say they never paid out when I had an accident, or it was really difficult to get the money back when I had an issue in my home. It's really important that you are both spending on quality and on and being aware of the cost when you're making an insurance purchase, because insurance and paying money every single month is no good if it's not there when you need it. The other thing that we all need to know about insurance is bundling your insurance products often leads to a better discount than buying these policies individually. You do have to verify the math, but typically, if you're on the phone with an insurance carrier and you say, hey, not only do I want my renter's insurance from you, I think I may move my car insurance over to you too. How much would my rate be now if I'm bundling both of those policies and both of those services? So always ask the question and always do the math to make sure that you are in fact getting a saving. Then you want to review this again every year or 2 to see if you can get the same or even better coverage at a lower cost. So make sure that you are not just set it and forget it on your insurance, just like Kevin talked about with those subscriptions. Don't be set it and forget it on the things that are that you are signing up for every month, and you can't be set it and forget it on your insurance either. The other major purchase is appliances and furniture. So appliances and furniture, you can get the exact same appliance or the exact same couch in January and pay a significant amount less for it than if you bought that couch in July. So it is really important that you don't just have your mindset on this is what I need or this is what I want, but you are really timing your purchase with the sales cycle. The best months for you to buy appliances and furniture are January, after the holiday clearance, May, which is when lots of people have spring cleaning sales, September, that's when new models arrive in the stores right in advance of the holidays. And so they're getting rid of those old models. Make sure you snatch up the old models then. Or November, we're all familiar with Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Make sure that if you're going for Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals, they are real deals and not just, fabricated deals that are just tucked under the Black Friday banner. Just make sure they're real deals. But all of these are times when you can get significantly less off of appliances and furniture and those major purchases that we need. The other thing that you should think about is floor models, open box items, and scratch and dent purchases. Those can offer great discounts without sacrificing quality, right? That little dent on it or that little scratch on it, if your house is anything like mine, your kids are going to put it there in a month anyway. So why not buy that washing machine at a significantly lesser price and get a scratch and dent model? There are also seasonal shopping strategies that you can employ. So in July and August, school supplies are at their lowest prices, so you can stock up then for the entire year. And end of season clearance is another great time to get deals. You can buy next year's seasonal items at 60 or 70% off. That means, yes, you may be buying winter coats in February or summer clothes in August or holiday decorations in January, and that's okay. You'll be saving a significant amount on all of them. You can also use the size up strategy for your kids, which I know many people already do. Buy next season's clothes in larger sizes during a clearance today. I got to tell you, my son, we have pants in larger sizes for him, shoes in larger sizes for him. You know they're going to go through that size, and you can typically predict when, from a seasonal perspective, they're going to need shorts in that next up size or pants in that next up size. And then obviously February, you can always get Valentine's Day candy the day after Valentine's Day, and Halloween candy the day after Halloween. So it's a great time to use seasonal shopping strategies. Used versus new is also a really great way to both save money and do the environment a lot of good. You can get great used purchases, whether they're in those categories that we talked about, furniture or appliances, but you can also get exercise equipment, books, and some electronics, cars used. You know, I don't know how many of you know this statistic, but when you buy a new car, you experience 15 to 20% depreciation in the very first year after buying that car. And the majority of that depreciation comes when you drive that car off the lot. So buying a new car is not a great strategy in terms of either saving money or really protecting your investment. So a used car is always a better thought process, a better strategy. Things that you may want to buy new are mattresses or car seats, bike helmets, and other safety items. Those are things that, you know, we don't want to risk from a safety perspective or a cleanliness perspective, or, you know, even a bed bug perspective as it relates to mattresses. We don't want to risk your family's health or your family's safety. So those are things you could consider buying new, but there are lots of other places where you can buy used. And there are lots of sites out there. You know, when Kevin talked about technology is our friend, you can go to Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, OfferUp. These popular platforms allow users to find secondhand goods at affordable prices, ranging from furniture and electronics to clothing and even vehicles. They also offer convenient ways to connect with sellers, negotiate prices, and arrange a local pickup. So while you may, you know, think that Amazon is the easiest thing in the world for you, yes, but if you can find those same items for 20% off or even 50% off or 70% off, who doesn't want that? And you can support your local economy. And again, you know, it is always good to buy secondhand from an environmental perspective too. The other thing that I just want to point out here is there's a site called Buy Nothing. It is in most major local communities. And that's another place where, you know, people are often giving away things for free. The thing that I will say loud and clear though is beware of fraudsters. I know people who have gone to these sites where someone has said, hey, I have an Xbox and a computer for free, and has told the person who was interested in acquiring that Xbox and the computer, all you have to do is pay for shipping. So send me $120 and I will ship both of them to you using the $120 that you send to me. Do not fall for those scams. So it's really important that you are not giving out any money for these websites that promise items that you could pick up for free. In a lot of instances in local communities, there is no shipping charge. You are just going and meeting someone somewhere and picking up the item. So please, I just wanted to point that out. Don't fall for any fraud. And then there's technology and electronics. You can always get manufacturer refurbished or third-party refurbished, and both of those are really great. Manufacturer refurbished is the best because you're getting a guarantee directly from the manufacturer. Third-party refurbished is, you know, one step down from that, but at least you are getting a third party that is, you know, oftentimes guaranteeing that item and they're refurbishing it. And then, you know, those both are better than just buying used because that doesn't include any kind of a refurbishing or guarantee that the item is in great shape. That is best for laptops, tablets, smartphones, all of those electronics items that get heavy daily use. It's great to have those refurbished to make sure that they're working and in, you know, like new condition when you're buying them. Apple, Dell, and HP all have refurbished programs that also offer the same warranties that you get when you buy from any of those companies new. So what a great deal. You get a refurbished product that's like new. It is cheaper than it would be if you bought it when it was new, and it offers the same warranty as if you bought it new. And the savings can be 15 to 30% off retail with full warranty coverage. And then the final thing I will say about this piece is always think about trade-in programs and when you should upgrade your current devices. You know, it is tempting for all of us when you see a trade-in program that's like the Apple 19, the iPhone 19. You can trade it in your current iPhone and get it for free, right? That may feel like a real deal, but again, remember, there are often costs that are associated with getting that new model for free. And sometimes it is your monthly cost is more expensive, or you have to move out of the current really good and cost-effective package that you're in order to migrate to that other kind of package. And so the upgrade rule that you should use for yourself is only upgrade when your current device can no longer handle your needs. If your current device is working and meeting all of your needs, don't do it. It may be tempting, but it's just another example of scope creep where, you know, you are upgrading what you are going to buy well beyond what your needs are. And you absolutely should not take that path. It's just a waste of money. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to talk to the students about your student advantage, which is always great.
All right. Thanks again, Tanya. So we're going to talk about a variety of advanced strategies. The first one is focusing on advantages that you have as a student, right? So now I understand that for your school, for University of Phoenix, that you typically aren't going to have to cover the cost of your traditional textbooks. A lot of your things are going to be included in your school costs, but there's typically going to be something that is related to your needs for school that you're going to have to cover. Right. So there's a variety of different techniques. So if you happen to be somebody who has family members that are going to a different school, keep in mind there are a lot of tricks with textbooks. So look at, is there a digital version as opposed to a paper version? Just like if you're getting a book on your Kindle versus buying the physical one, it's probably cheaper. What are the options for used? What are the options for renting? If you buy it new or used, can you sell it to another, to a textbook distribution company so that they can reuse it afterwards? So lots of different things around textbooks. If you've got family that are impacted by direct textbook costs, make sure you're looking into a lot of those options. Outside of your textbooks, the ones that are really going to be applicable is how do you leverage student discounts, right? So one of the big things this time of year, we always highlight that there's lots of back to school sales that are going on. There's tax-free weeks and all these things that are focused around more of your traditional kind of like grammar school and high school kind of school calendar and targeting those audiences, especially those kids that are sizing up on a constant basis like Tanya was talking about. But a lot of these retailers have student discounts that are layered on top of whatever promotional sales that are going on, right? So in addition to all of the great things we've talked about so far, make sure you ask, do you have any additional discounts available to students? It's not always going to be advertised. So whether you're looking at something that is like a computer or you might need software, right? So Adobe has a special rate for students. It's the exact same functionality and product that everybody else gets, but you can only buy it if you can validate that you are currently an enrolled student. Apple has a program, Dell has a program, Microsoft has a program for the Microsoft 365 suite. Some of these programs offer free software and free technology to students. Others offer lower cost, right? So all the big guys advertise it. A lot of other companies will give you discounts if you ask and you can validate that you are currently a student. So make sure you leverage that. We talked about earlier, if you don't ask, it's always a no. Always ask. Worst thing they can say is, unfortunately, we don't have a student discount. Okay, so make sure you take advantage of that. The next strategy we want to talk about is price matching, right? So we talked a little bit about this earlier with the negotiation tactic, but just in your normal shopping, again, some organizations and some stores will publicize that they have price match processes or price match guarantees, but a lot of people will honor price matching, even if you just bring it up and you say, hey, I'm here, you have this item, I want it, I'm holding up my phone, I'm on your competitor's website, and the price is $20 less, right? Talk to a manager, see if they'll price match. They want to move their products off their shelves just as much as you don't want to go drive all the way over to that other store, right? So again, ask the questions. Even if they don't have a published price match policy, it is in your best interest to know who are the other competitors, especially who has published online pricing, keeping in mind that the likes of a Costco where you have to pay a membership, they're typically not going to match that because there is that little asterisk of that price isn't available to everybody. But make sure that you do explore what are all those options that are out there. You can even price match the same store, right? I was in Target recently because we saw something on the Target website that my child needed for school. We went there. The online price was cheaper than the in-store price. I asked a manager, said, this just doesn't feel right. And the manager said, our apologies, we'll match what we have on the website. Okay, so it never hurts to ask, even if you're price matching the same company against its own quote unquote online offers. Credit cards and cash back. So this is something that it's always this kind of tricky topic for me as we talk about good financial habits, because if you have willpower, then you can really take advantage of a lot of the benefits that come with credit cards. If you don't have willpower, you can fall into the trap of running up a credit card bill. So all of this that we're talking about with credit card reward programs, it does come with the asterisk of make sure today's topic isn't about managing your credit and proper kind of debt and credit management, but make sure you're thinking about that when you're thinking about taking advantage of all of the incentives that come with different credit cards. Right? If you can manage this and make sure that you don't overspend, some really great strategies here. Right? So I have a credit card that is a travel-focused credit card. I get 10 times the points for hotels, airfare, Uber rides, things like that. That's all I use that credit card for because it's got the maximum point return value for those particular things. Right? I have another credit card that the general everyday purchase is at 3 times what most of the other cards are, including the one that's travel based. So when I'm buying groceries and things along those lines, I'm getting more points on that card, right? So being smart about getting a greater return on these different incentivization, travel points, cash back rewards. Try and understand which cards are going to be optimized for those purchases and distribute your spending across the appropriate cards to get the maximum return there. Okay. And again, being a student can come back to benefit you. There are student specific cards that sometimes have some really neat, interesting rewards, and or that card, simply by you making a purchase, you'll get surprised with a lower purchase price through certain vendors because you're making a purchase with a verified student credit card, a student account. And it saves you a little bit of the headache of proving that student status because your card has already done that for you. Okay, so take advantage of a credit card incentives, but have that willpower to make sure that you're not overspending. The points are not as valuable as the money that's still in your bank account if you spend wisely. Another thing to think about is interest savings. And there's a lot of different strategies here. So there you have those incentive programs. Tanya mentioned about different times of the year that are really good to make different types of large purchases. I know around me, every time it is Labor Day or Memorial Day, right? It's the beginning of the moving season in the summer, and then it's the overstock of all the of the summer. And every single furniture store around here has 0% interest for 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, in those Memorial Day and Labor Day sales, right? I would never, based on experience in my area, I would never pay any interest. I wouldn't even pay 0.01% interest on furniture because I know a couple times a year, every single furniture store around us has 0% interest that allows you to spread that out, right? Be aware of what those options are for you, but also whether it is a credit card with a 0% promotional period or whether it is a line of credit like with a furniture store, really make sure you understand the implications of a missed or late payment, right? Sometimes if it's a credit card, so for example, if you go to Best Buy to purchase a television or a computer and they offer, hey, you qualify for 0% interest for 12 months. You might buy a $1,200 computer, do the math, to pay it off, that's $100 a month. And I'm keeping it simple. We're not factoring in taxes or anything here. So that'd be $100 a month. Then you get your credit, you get your statement, your minimum payment is only 50, right? They didn't do the math right. And there's an opportunity, if you're not paying attention, that you're not going to pay off the entire balance during the promotional period. And then the asterisk comes into play. That promotional period ends, you didn't pay it off. All the interest from that entire time gets added on at the end. So just like we were talking about with the incentives on credit cards, 0% promotional periods are fantastic if you know the fine print and you make sure that you don't get caught up in anything that makes that interest get applied retroactive. So pay attention to those factors when you're looking at those 0% opportunities. If you can manage them and you're aware of how they work, really can save you a lot of money and make things accessible to you that you may not have had accessible. Tanya talked about wants and needs. You need that computer in time for school, but you don't have money to pay for it in full. A 0% interest a program like this may allow you to get that computer that you need in time for school to start, instead of having to figure out and struggle through not having access to that tool that's really going to help you with your schoolwork. And the last thing we're going to talk about is revisiting and adjusting your comparison shopping, right? So you've thought about all these different things that we've talked about. How does it all come together? A lot of it can be combined, whether that is looking at different stores, leveraging technology, evaluating interest-free programs. All of this can feed into your comparison shopping, right? So think about all of the different options that are available to you. And comment that Tanya made earlier, especially when you're talking about your larger purchases, is take your time and have that cooling off period. Think about, all right, I've made my decision. This is what I'm going to get. This is where I'm going to get it from. But don't do it, right? Come to that decision and then sleep on it, right? Maybe double check your work, right? We're on the theme of school and how can a lot of this help you as a student using that student advantage? Double check your work before you turn it in. Do the same thing in your comparison shopping. Double check your work before you make that final decision and make that purchase. Okay, adjust your strategies. Your circumstances are going to change. Your finances are going to change, and stay informed about all those opportunities for discounts and any other way that you can supplement your costs. And I'll toss it back to Chris.
Thank you. We are 1 minute under here, so thank you for this. Thank you, Tanya and Kevin. I don't see any questions we have here, but I think you gave us some really straightforward information about tips so that people can use to cut their costs and save some money in the time when everybody really needs that. So thank you. For everybody else here, we hope that you will join us again next month on August 19th for our next webinar. The topic for that one is about investing in your family's future and setting kids up for financial success. And so I think on the next slide here, we have a QR code that will take you to the registration page. And that again is for our August 19th webinar. And we hope to see you there. We can learn even more and put all this into practice and see how you can use that money to set people up for financial success. Thank you again, Tanya and Kevin. And thank you again to all of you for hanging on here when we had those technical difficulties at the beginning. Glad you were here with us. I see a question here, Siobhan. Yes, the recording will be available out here after as well. We'll make sure that that gets out to everybody.